Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into AI governance. We'll break down exactly what you need to know to manage artificial intelligence the right way, responsibly and effectively inside your own organization.
You know, AI is just moving at a wild pace, right? It's creating these huge opportunities for all of us. But, and this is a really big but, if you don't have the right guardrails in place, it can create some pretty serious and totally unexpected problems. So the big question is, how do we actually get it right? Well, let's find out.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the unseen challenges of AI, then we'll map out a solid governance framework. After that, I'm going to walk you through a super practical 4-step plan to get things moving, talk about how to make it stick for the long haul, and then we'll wrap up by looking at what's next for AI governance. Sound good? Let's jump in.
All right, first up, the unseen AI challenge. So why is everybody and their brother talking about AI governance all of a sudden? Well, in this first section, we're going to dig into that urgent need for oversight, something a lot of folks are just now starting to really grapple with.
So let's get on the same page. What is AI governance really? Let's break it down. Fundamentally, it's just a framework, a set of guidelines and practices that you put in place to make sure your AI systems are running ethically and safely. You can think of it like the rule book for your AI, the thing that helps you dodge the pitfalls while getting the absolute most out of your investment. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. The numbers back it up. Check this out. Organizations that have solid governance in place are 65% more likely to have their AI projects actually succeed. I mean, that is a huge difference. It totally changes governance from being a nice-to-have to being an absolutely critical part of your strategy.
And that 65%, it's not just a statistic on a slide. It represents real, tangible impact. I love this quote from a tech director in the financial world. They said that as soon as they put structured governance in place, they saw immediate jumps in both stakeholder trust and their project success rates. It just goes to show you this is as much about people and trust as it is about the tech itself.
Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's get into the how. How do you actually build this thing? The good news is, a solid governance framework doesn't have to be this crazy, complicated beast. It really just boils down to a few core principles and, critically, getting the right people in the room.
So these 4 principles, they're basically the pillars of your whole strategy. First, you've got transparency. You need to know how your systems are making decisions. Then there's fairness, making sure it treats everybody equitably. Next up is accountability. When something goes wrong, you need to know who's responsible. And finally, privacy, which is all about protecting sensitive information. If you can nail these 4, you're building on a really solid foundation of trust.
And here's something that's so important to get. AI governance is a team sport. It is not something you can just toss over the fence to your IT department and call it a day. To really do this right, you've got to build a governance committee, a cross-functional team that brings all kinds of different perspectives to the table. We're talking tech, legal, ethics, the business folks, everybody.
So who exactly should be on this committee? Well, you definitely need your technical teams, the people who are actually building this stuff. You need your legal department to help navigate all the rules and regulations. You absolutely want ethics specialists in there to act as your moral compass. And of course, you need your business stakeholders, the people who know how this will all play out in the real world. It's that mix, that combination of views, that makes the whole thing click.
Okay, so you've got your all-star team. Now what? You have to give them a crystal clear mission. Their job is to handle everything from developing policies and assessing risks to providing oversight and ongoing monitoring. Defining these responsibilities up front is what keeps the entire process on track and makes sure nothing important falls through the cracks.
All right, we've talked a lot about the what and why. Enough theory, let's get practical. This next part is all about action. I'm going to lay out a 4-step implementation plan that you can use to take all these concepts and turn them into a reality in your own organization.
So we've boiled it down to 4 pretty straightforward and manageable steps. First, you assess your readiness. Second, you develop your policies. Third, and this is a big one, you prioritize data quality. And fourth, you build your monitoring processes. If you follow this roadmap, you'll have a really structured, effective way to get your governance program off the ground.
Okay, step 1. Is your organization actually ready for this? And this means you've got to ask some honest questions. Do we have the right tech in place? Do our people have the right skills? And maybe most importantly, is our company culture even ready to embrace this idea of responsible AI? You have to know your starting point before you can plot a course forward. All right, step 2. It's time to create your policies. And I'm not talking about vague, high-level statements here. This is where you write the actual rulebook.
We're talking detailed guidelines on acceptable use cases, what your standards are for data, and the specific protocols for testing AI systems before they ever go live. The key here is being super specific and crystal clear.
Now for step 3. And honestly, you can't overstate how important this is. High-quality data is the bedrock of trustworthy AI. Your AI is only going to be as good or as bad as the data you train it on. That means data quality has to be a massive priority. We're talking rigorous validation, thorough documentation, regular audits, the whole shebang. Because at the end of the day, it's still true, garbage in, garbage out.
And finally, step 4, continuous monitoring. Please remember, governance is not a set-it-and-forget-it kind of deal. It's an ongoing process, a continuous loop. You need to be constantly monitoring how your systems are performing, running regular audits, and, critically, updating your policies as the technology itself evolves. It's all about being vigilant and ready to adapt.
Okay, so you've built your framework and you've rolled out your plan. Awesome. But now for the tricky part. How do you make it last? How do you make sure this isn't just some project that fizzles out in 6 months? That's what we're talking about next, making it sustainable.
So long-term success really hinges on 4 key things. You have to invest in educating your teams. You've got to actively foster a culture where everyone feels a sense of responsibility. You absolutely must stay on top of the ever-changing regulations. And you have to commit to learning from experience and constantly improving. Do these things, and you're not just doing a project, you're actually weaving governance into the DNA of your organization.
And hey, this isn't just theory. We're seeing it play out in the real world right now. Take the financial services industry. They're using tiered approval processes for new algorithms. In healthcare, they're setting up really clear guidelines for predictive models used in patient care. And in retail, top companies are doing regular bias testing on their recommendation engines. These are real, practical applications where governance is already making a huge difference.
Okay, let's wrap up by looking ahead. The world of AI doesn't stand still for a second, right? It's always changing. And that means our approach to governance has to change right along with it. Staying ahead of the curve here isn't just a nice-to-have, it's an absolute necessity.
So what does the future hold? Well, the really forward-thinking organizations are already digging into automated tools to make monitoring easier. They're working together to create industry-wide standards. They're building more sophisticated risk models, and they're getting prepared for the new regulations that are inevitably coming down the pike. This is where things are headed.
So if you take away just one thing from our conversation today, let it be this. Don't get paralyzed by trying to be perfect from day one. The real key is to just start. Start small, learn as you go, and continuously, constantly refine your approach. Think of it as a journey of improvement, not a one-time destination.
And so I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. As AI continues to grow at this incredible exponential rate, how are you going to make sure that your governance, your framework, your people, your whole culture can keep up? Because really, the future of responsible AI is in all of our hands.